Hello, how are you guys doing? Good. So I'm just curious, what you all think causes obesity or causes overweight or weight gain. What does anybody have any?
Picking out.
Picking out. That's one. Yeah. Anybody else? Very good. Yes. Did you? Oh no. Anyone else?
There's probably a hereditary factor there.
Yeah, genetics, definitely. Yeah. Genetics definitely play a role. Depending on what your heritage is and that sort of thing, depends on how sensitive or unsensitive you are. So my hereditary is actually, my family's very lean. I haven't had to struggle with weight much my most life, and I hope that doesn't discredit me. But, but you know, as I do research it and I do try to study it, because I know long term I can't maintain what I do now, and so I've definitely made a study of it, a practice of it. My husband is very, very involved in it, and so I get a lot of great information from him and that sort of thing. So I hope you guys are going to enjoy this. I want to just go over a couple of ingredients that I have here on your paper, and I just want to let you know I'm not going to go too much into like the science of it all. I'll touch on it a little bit, but I'm not going to really delve into it because this is more of a cooking class. This isn't science class. So I'm going to talk about eggs. I have a lot of friends who tell me that, you know, if you eat too many eggs, it's high in cholesterol, that it's going to give you heart disease, that sort of thing. And unfortunately, eggs have been, I believe, been given kind of a bad rap. Eggs, if they are free-range eggs, are actually extremely high in omega-3s, which are the oils that do not cause inflammation. They have to be free-range. If they're fed grain, like us, like animals, you are what you eat. If you eat an egg from a chicken that has been fed on grain, he's going to be full of omega-6s, and omega-6 is what cause inflammation. Also, if it's a free-range egg, it also raises your good HDL. I don't know if you guys know HDL, LDL, that sort of thing. HDL is your good cholesterol, LDL is your bad cholesterol. You have both. You can't have perfect HDL. In an imperfect world, we all would. But HDL is more easily absorbed into your blood, which carries energy to your body. LDL is what causes blockage and that sort of thing. Eggs are very high in HDL. So they are high in cholesterol, but they're high in the very good cholesterol. So eggs are not as bad as you think they are. Okay, so next on there is butter versus margarine versus vegetable oils. I think y'all have heard this one preached to you a lot, that vegetable oils are a healthy oil to cook with, that they're going to you know, help you lose weight, and it's just overall a good oil. Vegetable oil, it's also corn oil or sunflower oil or cottonseed oil, all of which are high in omega-6 fatty acids. And like I said, with the eggs, omega-6 fatty acids cause inflammation, which is really the precursor for disease. And if you look at the American diet, everywhere you go to eat, your salad dressings that you buy off the counter, you know, off of the counter, which you think are going to be healthy and good for you, and that you're putting on your salads, all of those things, if you look at the label, the first ingredients is generally going to be corn oil.
Soybean oil.
Or soybean oil, yes. Both of which cause inflammation. I mean, it's donuts, it's fried chicken, it's anything cooked in oil. I mean, even if it's lightly cooked in oil. So, and you know, like going to restaurants, a lot of people don't know the oils. It's always good. I always ask. I'm that person. I try to know what's going into me. But, you know, packaged food, you just never know really for sure. And that's probably my biggest problem with packaged food is, you know, it's your body. You own it. if you're going to let somebody else dictate what's going into your body, like, Heinz or, I'm trying to think of, because I don't buy a lot of packaged foods. Pillsbury, those people are dictating what you're eating. And if you don't own your body, you don't look at that sort of thing. So there's my little soapbox. So margarine is a vegetable oil, canola, and Crisco, and pretty much all those things that you bake with. I mean, they're just laden with this stuff. That's where I would choose to use butter over any of those, especially for the same reason as eggs. If you get grass-fed butter, preferably in its raw form, it's going to be high in omega-3s. And also, butter, again, raises your HDL and not your LDL. So it's going to be, if you get the grass-fed, unpasteurized butter, it's hard to find the unpasteurized butter, but if you can, or you have a good source, go for that, because the pasteurization ruins a lot of the proteins and that sort of thing. So, yes?
Somebody mentioned to me ghee.
Ghee, yes. Ghee is great. It's generally used in Asian cooking. It's or Indian cooking. It basically has the proteins removed, because that's what a lot of people are really have allergies to, not intolerances to, allergies. So that's a great product too.
Isn't it just melted butter and you skim off?
Yes. Yeah, you can make it very easily at home. Yeah, you're right. It's the melted butter and you just skim off the top, and that's ghee. Yes.
How do you determine if these products, yogurts and butter and stuff like that, is grass-fed?
They'll say.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. And I know Pilgrim's carries a fair amount of them. I was out there actually looking around before I came in here. They have free-range eggs. This here is a pasture-raised butter. So, and if you look on the back, they only get this from cows who are feeding on grass from, I think it's like April to September, when they can. Because in our area, we don't have year-long grazing. I grew up on a farm. I know. I'm like, so they'll definitely tell you, and they'll be proud of it. I mean, that's not everybody's doing that. So it's something to be proud of, and I guarantee you, they will let you know for sure.
Thank you.
That Asian cooking product you mentioned, how is that spelled?
Ghee. I think it's Ghee. I think, if I remember correctly. And it generally comes in a little jar. And I'm pretty sure Pilgrim's carries that as well. So you can check that out.
You could eat lamb.
What's that?
Lamb.
What about lamb?
Lamb is grazed year round.
Yes. My dad actually raises sheep. So, yeah.
I haul them.
Oh, do you?
I had to move them to the desert. We had to move them to the pastures. Had to move them to the high pastures.
Yes.
And they continuously move them to pasture ground.
Yes, and that's responsible. Grazing. Like, most of the time in this area, they can't necessarily do that. Because I know my dad is a shepherd, and he does alfalfa feed in the wintertime, because that's what's available to him. So, but yeah, that's great. If you can find somebody, if you live in an area, and I don't know if this is it. Yeah, it's like pretty much most of the grass dies off.
In Colorado.
Yeah, I was gonna say most of the grass dies off around here for a while.
To Utah.
Yeah. Oh wow.
To the desert.
Oh, you haul them all over the place.
Yeah. And then back to Colorado, and then up into the mountains.
Cool.
Up Colorado, and then back down. So year round.
Yeah.
Thing. Of course, they sheared the wool out in the desert, and they did the
Well, yeah, because they'll cook to death. Yeah. Nice. Well, that's great. Okay, so like I said, if you can get your hands on grass-fed butter, free-range chickens, that's great, because they're going to be full in omega-6s. And also, they have a lot of vitamin K. A lot of animals who feed on grass are full of vitamin K. Vitamin K is been getting a lot of research lately for cancer. So both of those products, if you can find them in the grass-fed form, free-range form, are going to be really beneficial to your cooking. And you should not be afraid of these two items. Okay, so Lard or tallow. This is what this is. This is tallow. This is rendered fat from cow, basically, and lard is rendered fat from pigs. And you can really pretty much get rendered fat off of any animal with a vertebrae. Tallow, ooh, sorry. Tallow and lard are also something that you should not totally discredit. It's not available very easily here. I actually have to make my own, and it's pretty easy to make yourself, but for the same reasons as the butter and the eggs, tallow, if you can get a true grass-fed cow. Now there are several different kinds of cows. They have grass-raised and they have grass-finished. Grass-finished basically means the last month of their life they're grass-fed, and they can be sold as, and it's kind of deceiving. They're trying to play on the same field as a grass-fed cow, which is not the same thing. And also, many times, grass-fed cows will be finished for the last month on grain, which actually, even that short amount of time being fed a corn diet, it causes their fat to turn more to omega-6, or 6s rather than omega-3. So a true grass-fed cow all the way through is you can use their fat, you can use their stock, just eating the marbling. And honestly, a grass-fed cow, if you look at their meat, the marbling isn't always all the way through the meat. It's generally on the outside. So if you don't want to eat the fat, you don't have to, but it's corn-raised beef, the marbling is all the way through the meat. And generally, by the USDA standards, that's more desirable, to have marbling all the way through. But a grass-fed cow will not have that. So, and really basically the way you make tallow is making a bone stock from the bones of the cow or the joints of the cow, and letting it cool, and it just rises to the top, and you skim it right off. It's really hard, so it's very easy to do. Yes?
Crack the bones, or just put them in whole?
You can crack the bones. Cracking the bones, if you don't have to do it. If you do it, it can get to the marrow easier, and it draws out. It's easier to draw out the minerals and the glycerin, and there's a lot. Bone broth is extremely beneficial for you. It's full of glycerin, it's full of calcium, full of magnesium. It's probably, honestly, one of the most beneficial foods that you can probably consume. And most people I actually drink 2 cups of it a day. I give it to my kids.
We call it liquid gold.
Yes. And it's funny because people are always like, oh, you're sick, have some chicken soup. Well, if you make chicken soup the real traditional way, it is actually very healing and very beneficial, because glycerin is kind of the binding to your body. If you don't have glycerin, you would pretty much crumble into a puddle on the floor. Glycerin is very healing to lesions in your stomach, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. It's healing to your intestines, your joints, your hair, your fingernails, everything. Glycerin is probably one of the most underrated things I can think of in the food world. Or not glycerin, I'm sorry. Gelatin. I'm sorry. I'm saying glycerin. Gelatin. Excuse me. Yeah, gelatin. Excuse me. So gelatin is basically what gives your joints its flexibility. And I don't know if you have, if any of you here suffer with celiacs or leaky gut disorder or anything like that, but bone broth is actually one of the best things you can do for that. Bone broth, there's a diet called the GAPS diet. If you suffer from any of that stuff, I would highly suggest it. And it's not the easiest diet. It is basically the first 6 months is mostly fermented foods and bone broths, because both of those combined together are some of the glycerin. I keep saying glycerin. Gelatin. The gelatin in bone broth heals basically those holes, kind of patches the idea, the best way I can describe it is it patches those holes in your gut, and over time will heal your gut so that you don't deal with stuff getting into your bloodstream that's not supposed to be getting into your bloodstream, thus giving you allergies and autoimmune disease and a lot of other things.
Does the Knox gelatin that we buy do any of that?
The thing with Knox gelatin is they're probably not getting it from a good source. Really, bone broth is one of the best places you can get it. No, you can use anything, but it should be from a grass-fed animal. We make it out of, my husband hunts, and we make it out of venison, and you can't really get much better than that. So I'm like, so if you have any hunter friends who are just gonna throw that stuff away or give it to their dog, hop on that, get it from them, because it's very easy to make and it's extremely good for you. Okay, so like I said, lard and tallow for the same reason as the butter and the eggs should not be something. In fact, that's my favorite way of frying up my eggs is with some tallow. It gives a little bit of flavor, like the meat flavor. It's delicious and it fries perfectly. And tallow and lard can withstand really high heats. So if you're going to fry food, this is a good oil to fry in because it's not going to get free radicals when it gets to that high point where most oils will. So I don't know of a good oil that doesn't.
What about peanut
Peanut
oil?
oil, the mold in peanuts and stuff like that, that is generally pretty hard on the gut and the system. And it's just, I know it can withstand high heats, but it's generally, and also peanuts will give, especially if they're roasted, any nut roasted is going to be higher in omega-6. A raw nut, however, is not going to. It's the heat that causes that transfer. So if you're using peanut oil, it's probably roasted. And this is coconut oil. Yes.
Isn't that odd? Because peanuts, for that detracting factor, I have read that they have more resveratrol in them than red wine.
That could be true. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't do peanuts because one of our sons is allergic to them, so I don't do too much with them. But yes.
Do you get free radicals when you fry with coconut oil also?
No, but coconut oil doesn't have a very good smoke point. It will smoke at a low heat. You don't get the free radicals, but your house will be very smoky. Olive oil also cannot stand high heats. It's generally best, I use most of my olive oil for dressings. It's a good oil, but I wouldn't fry with it really, per se, so. Anything else? Okay. All right, sorry, I keep looking down. I'm gonna move on to coconut oil. Does anybody here use coconut oil? Good, good, good. I'm really happy that coconut oil is getting a comeback. Coconut oil has really gotten a lot of flack, probably because of the saturated fats in it. What most people don't understand about coconut oil is it is a medium chain triglyceride, which in layman's terms is it's easy for the body to break down and easy for the body to use as a fuel. Most oils don't have that going, and actually a lot of people use coconut oil for weight loss. Your body, like I said, uses coconut oil as a fuel, and actually, I don't know if you know this, but there's two fuels that the body can use. Does anybody know what the two fuels are? It's fat and it's carbohydrates. Carbohydrates will, when you eat a carbohydrate, what is a carbohydrate? Bread, fruit, sugar, rice, grains, yeah, anything like that. Yeah, beans. Beans are a slow release carbohydrate, but yes, beans as well. So when you eat a carbohydrate, it spikes your insulin. Does anybody know what insulin does or is? It does, but it's a hormone that basically tells your body to store fat. So if you're eating a high carbohydrate diet, it's telling your body, you're sending the signals to your body to store fat. So that's, like I said, anything like bread, fruit, even vegetables have carbohydrates. But you do need, I don't want to slam carbohydrates. You do need them. Your body does need them to function. I'm a runner. I shoot the goo when I'm out for a long run. That's basically sugar, but I'm going to use that sugar immediately. I'm not going to sit there and let it sit in my body and then have it stored as fat. Most people aren't going to do that. I'm not, and so basically, if you're eating a high carbohydrate diet, you're going to be storing fat. That's what a high carbohydrate. And sadly, the whole pyramid scheme, the biggest section that you're supposed to be eating is a grain section. It's the wheats and the breads and the oatmeal and everything. That's what's being pushed at you to eat. So, like I said, a high carbohydrate, you're going to be storing fat. Now, fat is your other option of fuel. Fat does not spike your insulin. Fat is actually a longer lasting fuel for the body, and it's a steadier fuel for your body. So a higher fat, low carbohydrate diet is going to give you an even amount of energy, and you're not going to have that high that sugar is going to give you, and it's not going to burn off in a second. That's the thing with sugar or carbohydrates is it's this really high. You've got all this energy. Now you've taken in all this carbohydrate, and then you're crashed. And then your body says, oh, you need to go eat again. So then you have to go back and you get fueled up on the carbohydrates, and then you crash, and then you go back. And actually the food world, the food producers know this, and that's why sugar is in everything. I'm like, it's in your ketchup, it's in your dressing, it's in any baked item you can get, bread. Yes, so it's in your soups that you're buying. It's in absolutely pretty much everything.
Any canned vegetable, I think.
Yeah, canned vegetables, canned soups, boxed soups, whatever. So it's something to be aware of. Even in organic foods, it's present. So you do have to be even wary with organic products. Even though they're organic, it doesn't mean that there's no sugar in it. So.
Or speaking of added sugar.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Let's see here. So, fermented food. Does anybody know what a fermented food is? Yeah. Sauerkraut. Anything else? Okay. Well, these are all fermented foods right here in front of me, and this one you can actually buy at Pilgrim's, which is really great because it's not pasteurized. It's in its raw form, which means it has all the probiotics. Fermented food, I actually do a fair amount in the fermented food world. I find it fascinating. Fermented food, I have a couple here to show you. I have some pickles that I've made. Pickles are fermented food. Pickles? Those are, yeah. Pickles, sauerkraut is one I've done, and I've also done a relish that you would put on top of a hot dog or something like that, which is actually really good, and you get to try it. Fermented foods is really kind of, I love the beautiful cycle of a fermented food. Fermented food, you grow in the summer, you harvest in the fall, and you ferment it, okay? Well, in the winter is when sickness is really, really prevalent. And so eating fermented foods wards off a lot of sickness because it's very healing to the gut. When your gut is healthy, you are healthy. Chinese proverb is the gut is the second brain. It basically really dictates, when you eat fermented foods, you'll notice your skin, things are just like clearer, more radiant. It's because your body is assimilating it the correct way because you have the digestive enzymes and the gut flora and the probiotics to do so. And so all fermented food contains probiotics and enzymes that you're going to need to digest food properly. So, and also a really great thing about fermented foods is it staves off hunger. The vinegar in it, because it does a lot of times have a strong vinegary flavor. Oh, also kombucha. I don't know if anybody here drinks kombucha. It's great. It's a great alternative to soda. if you struggle with soda. So is water kefir. It's a great alternative to soda as well. But kombucha also is full of a probiotic. Probiotics, and it wards off hunger. So eating a lot of fermented foods is going to help you out a lot, and they're actually really good. It's like a whole different, unfortunately, we live in a culture where they pasteurize everything, you kill everything, you know, instead of growing these cultures that are supposed to be in your stomach. But it kind of has eliminated a whole, like, world of culinary experience, in my opinion. When you pasteurize this stuff, it does not taste the same. When I open this jar of pickles and I eat a pickle out of there, it almost has an effervescent, because it's full of live cultures and life. And when you pasteurize it, that stuff is taken away and it's gone. Yes?
When you can that with high heat, does it damage?
You don't have to can fermented foods with high heat. Yeah, because the salt, it's a method that's been used for a really long time. They use salt as the preservative. So, and that's what causes the lactofermentation in there and causes the effervescence, basically. So just like eating, drinking soda, people drink soda to, not eat more food because the bubbles and stuff like that keep you full. Well, it's kind of the same thing with fermented foods. So anyway, so that, and also a couple other fermented foods are like kefir. I don't know if y'all drink kefir, but that's pretty bubbly stuff too. Yogurts, some raw cheeses are fermented. I do a yogurt cheese that's great. Let's see here, natto. Natto is a Japanese soybean. They eat it almost every morning there. It's really good. I just started experimenting with it. It's a lot of fun. It's very slimy looking, and it looks really unappetizing, but it's actually pretty good. My boys would call them the booger beans. It's kind of funny though with the whole fermented food things is kids really get into it. It's a fun experiment to do at home. We brew our own kombucha at home, and they have these things called scobies, and they're like these discs, and they're slimy and just kind of weird. But for little boys, it's great. They love it. So. And actually, I opened this jar the other today, and just huge bubbles come up because it's like you finally are releasing all the gases, and that's all of the live cultures and stuff that's present in fermented food. So it's a great, great way to heal your gut and to also ward off hunger. Okay, so let's see here. Homemade stock or broth or bone broth. Probably one of the easiest things I have learned to do that is been super beneficial for my family. I know from experience, and then just from people's feedback. I know a lot of people who have dealt with the whole leaky gut thing. My sister has a son who is allergic to everything on the face of the earth, it seems like. And she's doing that diet I was telling you about, the GAPS diet beforehand, and she's seeing amazing results. And most of it has to do with this. Basically, bone broth is, I don't know if anybody here has made chicken stock or anything like that before. Yeah? Okay. It's pretty simple. Yeah? You just basically roast the bones and, throw them in the pot with a couple of vegetables and, let it sit there for a couple hours. Well, bone broth is really similar. You roast the bones, you chop up the carrots, whatever flavors you want to add. You don't even have to put flavor in, really. You put water in over the top until it covers the bones, and then you're going to put something vinegary in it. And what that does is it starts drawing the minerals out of the bones. That's the purpose of the vinegar. Yeah, so 2 tablespoons. And I have a recipe on your recipe. It's the first recipe right there. Yeah, because I knew we wouldn't be able to make it today, because actually bone broth can take anywhere, well, you can cook it from, depending on the bones you use, like a beef bone, you're going to do 24 to 48 hours. It's a long cook.
Like femur bones?
Yeah, femur bones. Joints are the best. because they have all the connective tissues and stuff like that. And that has all the gelatin, thank you. I'm stuck on glycerin, I don't know why.
I've done both ways of doing the crock pot and in a pressure pot.
You can do it in a pressure pot.
That really speeds it up.
Yes, it
1 or
does.
2 hours.
Yep. Yeah, you can do it in a pressure cooker. Yeah, definitely. And it will result in the same thing.
When you do it with a slow cooker, does it take twice the time?
Yes, a slow cooker will take, twice the time. A pressure cooker,
But you
much
don't have
less.
to watch it at all times.
yeah.
You could eat her bones. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, you can literally, by the time I pull my beef bones out of it, they literally almost crumble in my hands. That is how much calcium, minerals, everything. I mean, everything that is beneficial from the bones. I mean, and this bone stocks have been in cultures forever. Indians do it. I mean, it's basically a lot of cultures have a great ritual in using the entire animal, and I mean literally the entire animal.
The Eskimos do that.
Yes.
They do the caribou
Yeah.
in the spring.
And it's like a whole ritual. I mean, like, it's a big deal. And so this stuff has been in cultures for a long. Even in Japan, they do a lot of fish bone broths, and they swear up and down that could raise the dead. I mean, these things have a lot of healing benefits. And, oh, go ahead.
How low? It says low temperature.
On low.
Really low?
Like,
Low on the
just
crock.
low. Yeah, I mean, like right above simmer. Yeah, it's low. And basically what you want to have happen is I start mine out on low, and eventually by the end of the day, it's kind of starting to do the bubbles, and you just want the constant bubbles going. You don't want a roaring,
Boil it.
no. But you do want it to kind of be simmering, just little bubbles, nothing crazy.
You refrigerate it overnight?
Yeah, you can, So, and then basically you can refrigerate bone broth. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. You refrigerate it. I refrigerate mine for 24 hours, and then when you come out, they're going to have this white layer on the top, and that is what this is. That's a
Between the 48 hours.
what's that?
I don't want cooking overnight, 48 hours.
Oh, well, that's you kind of have to. That's how you make it. You have to cook it for 48 hours, and some people cook it for 5 days.
She's talking about in a crock pot.
Oh, in a crock pot?
In a crock pot or on your stove. I do mine on my stove.
For 48 hours?
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep adding water.
You do, but it doesn't boil off quickly. It really doesn't.
That was simple.
And if you have the lid on, you're not letting a whole lot of moisture out. So yeah, it takes about, and it's largely unattended, and it makes your house smell amazing.
And
It does.
I strain my bones before I put it in the refrigerator, though.
Yes, yeah, you strain everything out and then refrigerate it. Obviously, you don't want big chunks of carrots and stuff in there. So yeah, you strain it out and then set it in your fridge for about 24 hours. And what will happen is you'll get, like I said, that hard layer on top. If you want to keep it, you're welcome to. Sometimes, if there's not enough there, I just give it to my dogs. But normally, there's enough there. But yeah, so that's how you basically the basics of bone broth and tallow, really. And I hope you realize the kind of the benefits that you can get from bone broth. It's amazing stuff. Okay, so low-fat food versus full-fat food. I know I grew up drinking skim milk and doing the low-fat everything. My mother, when she was going through menopause, went crazy with the low-fat thing. Basically, low-fat foods are full of really bad stuff for you. Either it's, if you remove the fat from something, what is it going to taste like? I mean, really, no, it's going to taste terrible. And food producers know this, so they fill it full of sugar, because sugar is technically non-fat until it enters your body, so they can label it as non-fat. That's why you see all those little candies that say non-fat on them, the hard candies. So they either load it up with sugar, thickeners, because if you remove the fat from things, it gets really thin and watery and nasty. So there's a lot of thickeners in those foods. And also, if you're eating low-fat foods all the time, your body is going to be wanting more because it hasn't been fed. So what happens is people get into a vicious cycle of eating their low-fat yogurt and then 2 hours later needing something else. I know from experience, when I eat eggs and bacon in the morning, I don't have to eat till almost 2 in the afternoon. That's when I start getting hungry. I don't need to eat 2 hours later and keep grazing and keep feeding and all that sort of thing. So low-fat foods really actually cause you to eat more foods because your body has not been nourished, really. So also, on the whole fat thing, what do you think, what is your brain made out of? Does anybody know what your brain is made out of?
It's cholesterol.
Cholesterol and fat. Almost entirely of fat. If you starve your body of fat, you are starving your brain. Literally. I know that when I eat a good meal that has fat and has, vegetables and that sort of thing, I think clearer on a full fat diet. And I practice a high fat, low carbohydrate diet. That's what I do. That's what my family does. That's what my husband does. That's how we live. So, and I'll just tell you now, you function on a whole nother level when you are actually feeding your brain. You have to feed your brain. Otherwise, if any of you have young children, I think, in the first 2 years of lives, they really get some fat on those babies. Get those babies, put some fat into those babies because their brains are growing. That's when your brain does the most growing, is the first 2 years of life. So, when they say you have good mother's milk, that sort of thing, it's full of fat. It's good for them. You have to have fat to have good brain function. And I know that, like, when my mom was on her low-fat diet, her hair started coming out. Her nails were breaking. Your body sends signals. And if your hair is coming out and your skin is flaking and you have eczema, those are all signals that something isn't right. So, so basically, back to you need fat to feed your brain. You need fat for fuel. Okay. Last but not least, red meat is not going to kill you. We have ground beef almost every night. So basically red meat, for the same reason, eggs, this, and this are not going to kill you if it's grass-fed. It's full of omega-6 or omega-3s, and it's full of vitamin K, and it's full of a lot of other nutrients that are void from grain-fed cows. And I don't like to harp on all that. My dad is a conventional farmer, and he knows how I feel about it. But it's true. It's like if you mistreat an animal, I really believe this. If you mistreat an animal, they're going to give you bad food. That's just the outcome. Yes.
And what's the difference between, you'll see some meat, it'll say grass-fed but not organic. You'll see some meat that says organic but not grass-fed. It's kind of confusing.
The organic is probably leaning more towards the hormone injections that they give them and that sort of thing. If it says non-organic.
If it just says organic, but it doesn't say anything about grass-fed, is that okay?
Then it's probably grain-fed or soy-fed or alfalfa.
Or it means chemicals weren't used on the grain.
Yes, used to fed. Yes, exactly. It's complicated. If it says it's an organic grass-fed cow, I'm assuming that I know it's and it has to be grass-finished. Grass-finished is very important because a lot of times like I said, grass-fed, they try to fatten them up right before slaughter so they feed them grain. So you got to make sure it's a grass-finished cow.
Does it say that on the label?
A lot of them don't, which my husband and I, we actually buy a quarter of a cow or half a cow in the fall. You can, generally at farmers markets, they have that option. There'll be a couple of sellers there, and I make sure to ask them if it's actually a grass-finished cow. But that's really important. Generally, if it's just an organic meat, it just means the feed, like you said, the feed that they're feeding on is organic. It hasn't been sprayed with chemicals, and they haven't been injected with hormones. So that's basically what that means, but it doesn't mean that it's not. That doesn't mean it's grass-fed.
No, the primary thing is looking for grass.
Yeah, definitely.
If you buy prime beef, it goes right from the field to the slaughterhouse.
Yes,
But otherwise than that, everything else goes to the field.
exactly. Yep. Yeah. And I know in Spokane we have a couple of really good reputable people, and like I said, they're generally at farmers market. I'm sure you can get grass-fed here. I don't know if it says on the label if it's grass-finished, because I don't think a lot of people know to look for that, so I don't know that it's always labeled. So
Do you have a list of resources?
I can have some for pilgrims to put up if you'd like. Yeah, I can do that. Yep. Okay, let's cook a little bit. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, I skipped over. I'm sorry. Okay, so gluten-free. My whole thing with gluten-free is a lot of the packaged gluten-free. You know, people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to go gluten-free, blah blah blah, and they go out and they buy, you know, the cookies and the pastas and that sort of thing. Well, a lot of gluten-free is kind of deceiving, in my opinion. It's labeled as healthy and good for you. It's full of sugar. It's full of sugar, and actually I brought quinoa mac and cheese. You look at that, you think the first ingredient is quinoa on here? It's not. It's corn. That's the first ingredient. The first ingredient means that's the biggest, you know, that's what it's mostly made of. So a lot of gluten-free is corn or rice, and the problem with rice, and actually they just came out with this pretty recently, white rice products and brown rice products are that they found in stores is really high in arsenic, like toxic levels of arsenic. And actually the brown rice, which you don't think would be that way, the brown rice is higher in arsenic than the white rice products. So
Is it from where it's being grown, the soil's contaminated?
they don't know. I was reading, they don't really know why. They don't know why. But there were the Lindmans. Do you know which ones I'm talking about? They make rice cakes. They said those were the lowest. They're out of California, and I'm trying to remember. I know it starts with an L. I think it's like Lindmans. Lumberg?
Yes,
Lindbergh? Okay. Yeah. They said they were the lowest out of anyone. Like the highest, I think, was like the bunnies. The little gluten-free bunny. You know, the people who make the bunnies? No. They're like these little crackers and cookies. Yeah. Yes.
And I've heard that if you're going to cook rice, you should cook it with pasta instead of like 2 cups of water to 1 cup of rice. You should cook it with lots of water so that more of that will
Flow off.
Yeah.
And then strain it. Oh.
Getting rid of a lot more.
I didn't know that. Okay.
It also helps
And
to
lately
wash
I'm
it
hearing
more.
about black rice, which I just bought.
The antioxidants and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just don't know much about it.
You know, I still serve rice to my family. I just personally cook it myself, and maybe I don't believe they're getting arsenic, but I don't know for certain. But I know that the products that are being sold as rice, you know, gluten-free rice products, have been labeled as very high in toxic levels of arsenic. So, and yeah, honestly, that's not even my biggest, you know, thing with gluten-free. Is my biggest thing with gluten-free is it's full of really bad stuff like corn and sugar, all things that spike your insulin just as much as any other baked good is going to. So really, it's not as healthy. And the only health aspect of it is it's not messing up your stomach. That's a bonus, but it's not gonna keep you from losing weight. Yes.
Do you eat anything canned?
Me? I occasionally will do tomatoes. I do. I generally grow mine and freeze them. I'll cook them and freeze them, but I try not to. But the big thing with canned is the BPA lining. I think a lot of people know that. They're finding, you know, the big thing with that is that those foods sit in the BPA cans for Lord knows how long. I mean, they can sit on the shelves for 10 years, you know. That's kind of the beauty of canning, but you know, when you have something sitting in a BPA-lined can for X amount of years, it's not that great for you. So a lot of times, a lot more companies are labeling their cans, labeling them as BPA-free or something like that. So they're definitely out there, and you can look for that. My biggest thing that I do consume that is canned is coconut milk. And I just make sure I get the BPA-free line can, you know, and that sort of thing. And there's a few out there, like Native Forest, I think is one. And I can't remember the other one, but yeah, Native Forest is I think the one we normally get. And they probably carry it here at Pilgrim's.
When you're talking about the rice having arsenic, are you saying even bulk rice, all rice?
No, these are just products that they tested in gluten-free packaged foods.
Packaged foods. I don't buy packaged foods.
Good for you, that's good. I already got on my soapbox about packaged foods, you might have missed it.
My policy is if I read the label, there's more ingredients, and the fourth one isn't water, I don't buy it.
Yeah, that's great. Good for you.
I'm not sure I'm understanding. So regular rice is not,
No, they didn't. Yeah,
You're saying rice cakes.
rice cakes, rice cookies, rice pasta, or corn pasta. Yes.
Dr. Oz says it's in rice.
Yes.
Just processed.
Yeah.
Rice.
Well, and that.
That's why I was saying cook it.
Rinsing and soaking your rice, soaking your rice is also, if I'm going to cook rice, I generally soak my rice. I soak it for up to 6 hours. Yeah. So, and then you rinse it, and generally you're soaking it in a salt kind of based water, which gets rid of a lot of the digestive inhibitors and that sort of thing in rice. So, yeah. Okay, let's cook. To teach you guys how to do that instead of my gluten-free pancakes, which are also amazing. Okay, so gluten-free crepes. All right, so what we're gonna need is my 2 eggs. Actually, I'm gonna need, we'll just use that. 2 bowls. And where did my coconut flour go? Sorry. Oh, here it is. Okay. No. Did it get put somewhere? Sorry. I'm trying to find my coconut flour. It's vanished. Is it in a bag?
Is it out here in a white?
No, that's my coconut oil, which is a great product too, but it was in like a yogurt container, but that's not it. Oh, here it is. Okay, so you're gonna need a cup of coconut flour, or I use almond flour as well. Both are great. I like them over the rice flour or the potato or anything like that. So, because coconut actually has a fair amount of protein in it and good fats. So, oops. Okay, so actually it says separate your eggs here, but you shouldn't do that. I'm sorry. Don't separate your eggs. Okay, in another bowl you're gonna do 2 eggs. And if you compost your eggs. Okay. All right, 2 eggs, and then the raw milk, which I have here. And I use, if you have trouble with milk, you can use coconut milk or almond milk or any of those. So those are options too. I also do kefir once in a while. It kind of gives it a nice sour, kind of cheesy flavor if you're interested in that. Okay, so cup. 1 cup. Actually 1 1/4 cup. Okay.
We all have to help do the dishes.
Yes, you're all staying after. In the perfect world. Let's see here. I'll use a little fork. I'm just gonna whisk it enough to get your eggs nice and mixed in there. And if you buy free-range chicken eggs, you'll really notice that the yolk is much more colorful. It's actually almost an orange. That is, a lot of that is the beta carotene in it. Okay. All right, there we go. A little bit of salt. Not too much, just like a pinch. Not sure how that thing works, but. Okay, that's maybe like a quarter teaspoon. It's not a lot. And I should probably be warming this up. Let's see here.
How hot do you want the pan?
Yeah, I do. I start mine out on medium, and as the pan gets hotter as I'm cooking, I generally take it down just because it starts browning things pretty quickly. Okay,
Is that a stainless steel pan?
Yeah, I normally cook with cast iron. Cast iron is my preferred because
Last time?
no, I don't know. No, because then it wobbles. Because of the iron that you can get from cooking in cast iron. I'm not sure.
So what brand of pan is that I'm looking at?
What's that? What are these?
No.
These are Rachel Ray.
Buy those there. No.
I have no idea. These are actually here. I think you can probably get these at Target, I'm assuming. But these are stainless steel, and they're pretty harmless.
They say stainless steel over aluminum these days.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And then don't cook.
I mean stainless, you buy a pan, it is stainless steel put over aluminum.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it.
I
So,
don't know if there's a stainless steel pan available.
really nice ones, all clad, if you're willing to fork out the money. But
Minor neon.
yeah. Oh yeah, cast iron takes a little bit of experimenting. You really have to cook on it a while you have to make sure that your oil is hot enough, otherwise things stick, and you do have to, I'm slowly pouring this in here, so.
I can't remember the last time I had something stick to my cast iron.
Yeah, eggs used to be a big problem for me, but I kind of figured those ones out after a while.
I've got a cast iron skillet that's older than me.
I got mine from my mom and dad. Yep.
My crepe pan is cast iron.
Is it? Nice. I actually don't own a crepe pan, but I make crepes all the time. I need one.
It's just a
A little one. Yeah. I'm actually going to do my crepes a little bit bigger since we're feeding the masses here. So
With pancakes, is it similar, just different proportions?
pancakes are similar to this recipe. I have a rising agent in them because generally gluten-free is like. Actually, the reason I got the idea of doing a gluten-free crepe in the first place is because the packaged ones I got, I would cook them and they were literally like a crepe. And so I was like, oh, I should just make these into crepes. Makes more sense. But the recipe that I use is, it's got baking powder, a little bit of baking powder in it. And then I separate my eggs. And I whip the egg whites to create some volume in the actual pancakes. So that's how I get away with that one. Okay, so trying to get, the only trouble I've had with this recipe is just getting all the lumps. The coconut flour kind of likes to stay lumpy, but you'll get a lot of better results if you pour the liquid into the dry ingredients. So, last bit. You want your batter to be fairly thin when you're making crepes. It's supposed to be more eggy than floury. Okay, so.
The recipe doesn't require the 6 hours of refrigeration.
No, but you can definitely do that, especially if you're using like almond flour, because soaking, basically if you soak your flours even, or your nuts or your grains or anything like that, there's basically every living creature has a defense mechanism. In plants, it's generally digestive inhibitors. And so that's why people get gas when they eat beans and that sort of thing. It's the plant's defense mechanism to signal your body that you shouldn't be eating this because it makes you uncomfortable. So soaking things gets rid of that. And that's a whole nother class. But I was like, if you go online and research it a little bit, you can learn a lot. There's certain grains need a certain amount of soaking times. Some do better in whey, some do better in salt water. You know, it's just a little different.
That's why you soak beans.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Get rid of the sugar and the gas.
exactly. So we need a little bit of butter on our pan. And then I'm going to show you all the great things that you can do with these crepes. All right. You don't need a lot of butter. And in fact, in my experience, the first crepe is always the worst one because the butter kind of, it just mixes in with the batter and makes it kind of fall apart. So the first one's not normally my best one, so don't judge. Okay, we need a spatula. All right. For the bigger ones, I do normally like half a cup of batter. For the smaller ones, like a quarter cup, like a 6-inch, 7-inch crepe. So pour that in there. And you're gonna swirl it around a little bit in there. And that's just to get it evenly everywhere. And these really don't take much time to cook at all. The first side generally cooks about maybe 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and then the next side will cook even faster because literally they're so thin that it almost cooks all the way through by the time you flip it. Does that make sense? So what I use these crepes for a lot of times is my boys like the whole peanut butter roll-up thing, but we're actually gluten-free, even though I'm not that into gluten. We are gluten-free, and this is a great way, a good alternative to tortillas and that sort of thing. I do like the little peanut butter roll-ups for them in these. A lot of times, if I want to make it healthier for them, I do like yogurt cheese, which I'm going to do for you guys. A yogurt cheese with sprouts and then like a little lemon zest. It's really good. You're going to like it. Sprouts on that note, sprouts are actually quite good for you. If you think about, I think in your notes I told you, like, if you think about an egg, it's not reliant upon a mother. It has all the nutritions there present in that egg to grow a baby. The sprout is kind of similar. Once you expose it to water, the seed actually possesses all of the protein, everything necessary for life to grow. So sprouts are quite good for you. All right. Pan's not quite warm enough, sorry. Sorry. I know. Crank it up a little bit. It's gonna be your fault if it burns. I should have brought my handy flipper. I got this flipper at a garage sale one time. And it was and actually it was like an old 50s one, and you squeezed it and it flipped like for pancakes. It was great. It's great too because it's really thin. So it's like my favorite flipper. Okay, come on now.
There's a flipper that they used to manufacture, I haven't seen one in a long time, but it's three blades lying on top of one another. So you do the lever and it's wide and it's for crepes.
Nice.
It just, the three fan out like a fan.
Oh, that's great. Wow, this is taking a little while. I'm not quite sure what the stovetop means. 5's the highest. Is 5 the highest? Oh, no, it's not. Okay. Okay, well, we'll just crank it up a little bit. Maybe 6 will be in. The first one's always the hardest, so if the first one doesn't work out, like I said, don't judge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you do try or do you just run?
I do both. I do. Running is my background. I did that all through high school and college. And then I got into swimming because I had so many injuries from running. So, okay, there we go.
She wants to do try.
Yeah?
And we came to one of Ben's seminars, and Ben got me interested in doing try.
There you go. It's great. It's a great sport.
I couldn't afford the wetsuit last summer.
Yes, it's an expensive sport. Okay, here we go.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, I've done it old school before. I've gone in a swimsuit the whole way, running, biking, everything.
I need all the extra flotation I can get.
Yeah, it is helpful. Okay.
Yeah, it's a sprint.
Okay.
Coeur d'Alene tries that.
Come on. Which is a great one, actually.
It is a great one.
I like that one because of the hill. I'm a good hill climber on my bike, and it's got a lot of hills.
I've done rescue,
Oh,
Ironman, and Coeur d'Alene tribe.
oh, right on.
I'm a captain at the resort.
Okay, my first one wasn't that good, but we'll do better next time. I think it's because of the heat. The heat, well, it absorbs most of the oil, so that's why I always told you the first one's always the worst. It's not normally this hard. New utensils, new everything, but it's usable. Okay. So,
That wasn't very brown.
this one, no, because I just cranked up the heat. Apparently I had it very low. I don't know what the numbers mean on this thing, because I normally just have high, low, you know, medium, whatever. This is like numbers. I don't know what that means. Okay. All right. I'm going to do a couple of these, and then I'll roll them up for you, and you guys can have a taste. Okay, so while I'm doing... Oh, no, I don't like to keep buttering. No.
Oh, okay, I thought that you
In fact, I'm going to get rid of some of that. All right. Okay.
It's another nice thing.
What's that?
Another benefit of cast iron.
Yeah. Swirling, okay. So what I'd like to do, another thing I like to do with these crepes is, and I actually got this from my husband's Sicilian grandmother, which means it's good. She makes her manicottis out of crepes rather than noodles. And so that's what I've done with those. And I actually have little samples over here if you want to taste them. And that's why I put the manicotti filling recipe in there for you. I didn't put the marinara because a lot of people like to buy it jarred, or they have their own recipe already. But the filling's in there, and I don't know if you want to, I don't know if there's enough for everyone, so I'm feeling kind of bad about that, but. Oh, it's on your recipe page. There you go. Oh, yeah. I sent her a new one today. Oh, well, I didn't actually put this on here. Is it not on here?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, well. Tell us what
Okay.
we'll just write.
Do you want to hear it? It's really quite simple. It's one diced onion, whole onion, probably about medium size, and then you are going to use one of your good oils to cook your onions in, preferably butter. And then after they're translucent, you're going to put in, oh, and there's 2 cloves of garlic. Okay, so once you got those cooked up, you're going to put in your ground beef, pound of ground beef. See, that was much easier that time. A pound of ground beef. Cook that until it's browned. Salt and pepper to taste. And then I like to put vegetables in mine. I put sometimes spinach or grated carrots. Those are good ones. And then after the meat's cooled, you're going to put in about 16 ounces of ricotta, raw ricotta cheese, which is actually a very easy cheese to make if you have availability to raw milk. But I'm not going to go into that right now. So that's homemade ricotta cheese in there, and about 16 ounces, 16 ounces. It's generally what is in a container, and then that's all that's in the filling. Simple, because most of the flavor is in the sauce, so the filling's not going to be too much. So.
The Italians actually use a combination of butter and olive oil.
Yes, and that is a good. I do that when I make a risotto, which is not very often. Those are for special occasions because it's.
Anytime you try it,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good flavor.
It is good flavor. It is. I've done that a few
It doesn't
times.
burn as easily.
Exactly. Well, the butter can cook pretty quickly. The proteins in the butter, and that's why you get brown butter and that sort of thing. So it's the proteins. Okay, while this baby's cooking, I'm gonna get rolling here. Do you guys know what yogurt cheese is? Does anybody know what yogurt cheese is? Yogurt cheese is similar to cream cheese, except for it has all the probiotics in it. It's very, very easy to make. You could just use an old pair of pantyhose, literally. Wash them, please. You can cut the feet off of your pantyhose, pour the yogurt into the socks of the pantyhose, and hang it on a hook. And what happens is the whey and the salt drip away from the yogurt. I hang mine for about 8 to 12 hours overnight, basically. And in the morning, it's ready to go. So, and then you can mix pretty much any kind of herb you want in that. Dill's a good one. I like to do dill and salt for like, if I'm filling up celery sticks or, bell peppers or something like that. For you guys, I just did salt. It's still good.
So that's just yogurt?
Mm-hmm. Yogurt and salt. That's all that is. I don't know. I've never done that. I don't know. Yes. You can use any kind of milk yogurt that I know of. You could potentially use the coconut. I don't know. But see, it's got a thicker consistency. It's spreadable. And actually, I didn't get to hang this one as long as I normally do for you guys because it was kind of a last-minute idea. But it's still good. So.
Full fat yogurt.
Yeah, full fat. Feed your brain. There we go. So spread it on there, and then I like to do sprouts, but really, I mean, you could do anything. You could do guacamole on this. You could with some cilantro, put in some tomatoes. This is just easy, and I have sprouts pretty regularly, so. And like I said, they're great for you. And a little lemon zest, a little note about lemons. Try to get them organic if you're going to zest them because they don't have the wax on them and they don't have the pesticides. So try to get organic if you can. Okay. And then we're just going to roll it up. There you go. I should probably check on this guy. See, crepes literally, when you don't have all the butter on there, you can literally pick it up with your hands because it kind of gets like papery thin on the outside and it comes away from the pan, so you just kind of grab it and it comes right off. Okay, I'll eat the end since there's nothing in him. I'm going to cut these guys up for you.
So if you were making the manicotti,
if I'm making the manicotti, what I like to do is I just put the meat filling in, I roll it kind of just like you would a burrito, this is kind of swirly, like you would a burrito. And then I lay it seam side down on the baking sheet so that they don't come unrolled, obviously. And then what I like to do, and you can experiment with this if you want, is I cook it in the oven at 350 for about 20 minutes before I put the sauce on. Because what I've noticed with these crepes is they'll absorb a moisture and then they'll get mushy if you're not careful. So I cook it for 20 minutes without anything on them, so it kind of crispifies the crepe. And then I'll pour on the sauce, and it's however much you want, but the more sauce you're going to get, the more, obviously, even with noodles, the more mushy it's going to get. So I just normally do a thin layer of marinara, and then I sprinkle the cheese on top, and I cook for another 10 minutes. And then to get the cheese nice and brown, to get that kind of, the proteins in the cheese to cook, that's why they turn brown, is I just put it on broil for a little bit, and it kind of just makes the cheese nice and crunchy and stringy all at the same time. So, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, let's see here. It's quite delicious. Thank you, Grandma Rose. Her idea. Taken to a gluten-free level. Okay. So, that one. Oh. Okay, last one. Then we'll move on. I did these once for a party, and I think I made grapes for like 4 hours straight.
Wow.
I was like, I am so tired of grapes.
Your can's perfect.
Yeah.
For August, maybe. So I've been known to make and put them between layers of wax paper.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And then take them out over time.
Yeah, I did that once, and actually freezing, I did freeze these one time because on a trip we went somewhere, and they didn't freeze that great. I'll tell you now, they do get kind of brittle after you pull them out of the freezer. So I was gonna say that, and thank you for reminding me. They do, I mean, they'll last in your fridge for about 4 days is what I would give them, and they're not in my fridge that long, so.
This is the manicotti.
It's better warm. It's still good, but I was like, I wish I could have, it would have been too hard though, so.
What is this we're eating now?
That is the manicotti all chopped up. And it's cooled off, I'm sorry, but logistically it was easier this way. So,
It's got a nice texture to it.
yeah, it keeps the texture if you cook it the way, because I've had it the first time I tried it, I was like, oh, these are a little mushy. So if you,
This doesn't have marinara on it, does it?
you might have gotten an end piece. Okay. Yeah, it's good, huh? Some people might have to share. I don't know if I brought enough. Okay. Oops. Little zest. I like the lemon with cream. It just gives it a nice, I can't even describe it. It's just got a nice flavor to it. It adds.
It lightens things up.
Yeah, it just kind of gives it a little life. A little freshness. Okay.
We can keep use the same forks that we had, you don't need to do more.
Yeah, oh, I haven't got given.
Oh, you did it all around, okay.
What was I gonna say? I also, one of my favorite dishes is asparagus with a little bit of Parmesan and then a lemon zest on it. Oh, so good. So yummy. Try it. Or you could do it in that. Yeah, steamed. Lightly. Over. Yeah. Oh yeah. And you can do it with green beans too. Green beans are a good option if you can't get your hands on.
The Italian version of green beans is to put,
Are you Italian?
no, my husband was family.
Oh, okay.
And my mother-in-law was a great cook. My daughters all lived in Italy for
Oh, how wonderful.
a period of time, but anyway, they take green beans and after they're cooked al dente, you know,
Yep.
they have a little chewiness to them. Put olive oil and salt and a little bit of, if you want, a little bit of vinegar,
Okay, yeah. That would be good.
and then eat them cold. The Italians in northern Italy eat most everything. They have pasta as an appetizer, but they eat their meat and their vegetables cold.
Oh, nice. I can see that being
That way
yummy.
they're not cooking themselves to death. You see, they're in the fridge.
Well, then they can actually sit down and enjoy their company. Yep, that makes sense. I should do that too. Okay, last one over here. And then, so basically what?
A little garlic on this beef.
Of course. Of course. I just wanted to oh, go ahead. What?
I just got one of those electric stove top, or those kind
Glass
of,
top.
and they are different to cook on
Yeah, they are.
than the electric or the gas. They're very much their own.
Yeah, I've never cooked on one, so this is my first time. I'm yeah, hopefully getting a gas soon. That'll be awesome. I'm excited about having gas.
Do you have a working farm or ranch, or do you guys live?
Myself, right now we're currently building a home, and that's kind of the plan. We want to have some goats and chickens and some ducks and stuff like that. So eventually, right now though, we are in a very small little spot, and that wouldn't. We have a garden, and we could do chickens, but if we're moving, I didn't want to go down that road of getting the coop and everything like that. So I decided to wait on that. But yeah.
We were at Walmart a couple days ago, and I was surprised to see cheese from Rexburg.
Rockford?
Rexburg.
Oh, Rexburg. Oh,
Really surprised they had like named items.
yeah, that is interesting. Nice. Okay. So is it good?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Anybody ever used ceramic fry pan? You know, they have
I have,
green thing.
I've seen them. I've never used one. It's supposed to be kind of like a non-stick, but healthier. Are they? Oh, maybe I need.
About $20.
Yeah, I think I've seen them. I forget. Are they called like green something? Yeah.
What's the green?
In this?
No, what is the green on that pan? What's the coating?
Ceramic.
It's supposed to be It's a ceramic, so it's not supposed to be like a Teflon.
It won't come off.
Leach BPA into your food. Okay. So basically I wanted to show that these are versatile. You can do a lot with these. We keep them in our fridge for the week for the most part, and it's a great way to have an accessible, easy snack.
You mean just keep the crepes?
Yeah, I keep the crates. I generally put a little wax paper in between them and just keep them in my fridge. But I found that you don't even really need to do the wax paper thing. They generally just peel apart from each other. Yes?
What's your opinion on soy milk?
I'm against it, personally. My opinion on soy milk. A lot of people have allergy. First of all, it's supposed to be an allergy-free thing, but a lot of people actually have a lot of intolerance to it for the same reason they have an intolerance to any kind of bean. If they're making it, they're not probably soaking the beans, and they're probably, and obviously the whole estrogen thing with soybeans and that sort of thing. So I'm not a huge fan of it. I think there are better alternatives. I think you've got the option of hemp, you've got the option of almond, and actually almond's really easy to make at home yourself. There's coconut milk options, and coconut milk has got a great source of fat in it. So I think there are better options than soy milk. Rice milk, yeah, you can do rice milk, and actually you can make that at home very easily too. And there's actually quinoa milk. For me, more of it's a lot of times it's a GMO product. A lot of times, like I said, the whole estrogen inhibitor thing going on there, and then a lot of people actually just don't do very well with it. So.
It's my understanding on soy, you should only eat it if it's
Fermented.
cultured, fermented.
Which miso is a fermented soy. And actually the thing I was telling you about natto is a fermented soy. And those are fine because they don't have they have the digestive enzymes present to be able to assimilate that food. Does that make sense? Tofu, you can get it sprouted. Sprouted tofu is better. But I don't like to use it.
I've heard that, well, I've got a thyroid problem, so they told me not to eat any soy products.
Yeah. Well, no,
Because it messes with your hormones.
your estrogen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cancer too.
What? Yes.
I had cancer and you do not have.
Yeah.
Well, although there are some studies that show Japanese who are introduced to soy and eat
Is this
soy
enough?
pre-puberty
15 more.
have a much
Okay.
lower rate of breast cancer.
Well, they're generally
Soy
eating it.
introduced into somebody's diet post-puberty, they have no protective effect.
Well,
They use fermented soy.
they use a lot of fermented soy. A lot of it's, like I said, they eat natto for breakfast almost every day. It's kind of like their cereal.
I had a Japanese student stay with me in the 10 years after college.
Mm-hmm.
And her mother insisted that she had miso every day. And
Yes.
she would ship it to her.
Well, and that's why they say not to boil miso ever, is because it has all the probiotics and all, And actually, natto is also a very high source of vitamin K. So it's also.
What is natto?
Natto is basically. The best way I can describe it is, it's a fermented soybean. It's very simple to make.
What, you buy it?
You can buy it at Asian markets.
You use it for what?
Basically, they put it on top of rice. It's generally eaten.
Flavoring then?
Yeah, they generally put a little bit of soy sauce and mustard is how it's eaten traditionally.
You mean wasabi?
No, mustard. Yeah, actual mustard. Yeah, it's good. We eat it a lot actually in our house. It's a protein and it's a probiotic and it's very filling. You don't need a lot, which is kind of nice. Okay.
I just recently had allergy tests and it came up with both kinds of yeast, also soy. Mm-hmm. And reading labels, there's
soy is in everything.
everything, and there's also yeast in your chicken broths, and I mean, it's just a mess.
It's everywhere. Yeah, that reading labels is
Back to my great
is a fine art actually. Yeah. Yeah, my sister's son, like I said, is allergic to literally everything, and soy is one of them. He's actually anaphylactic shock to eggs and milk, and they think it's an autoimmune, because generally when your body gets to that point, it's just in a constant state of fighting. It's on guard for everything. So yeah, it's challenging, and he's young, so he doesn't quite. He is 4. And he's had it since he...
Will you be homeschooling him, or will he be going to school?
I don't know what her plans are yet. I think she said homeschooling. Because even though they've trained him very well to not, you never know when it's going to happen. So it's kind of...
So what is the GAPS diet you're talking about?
GAPS diet is basically a diet that is supposed to reset your stomach. It's for people who have severe leaky gut disorder or celiac disease, and basically it's intense healing of your gut for like the first 6 months. It's not a pleasant diet for the first 6 months, I'm not gonna lie. It's mostly liquid, and it's mostly, like I said, fermented foods, which don't come into later. You pretty much drink bone broth for the first 3 months. It's hard. It's not. And what it does is, like I said, the bone broth, it heals your gut. It's very healing, and then they slowly start adding things back in. It's very systematic, yeah. Yes? GAPS? GAPS. Yep. Okay.
You eat bread?
I eat sourdough. I will only eat a true sourdough made out of heirloom meat. And actually, I have a little bit here if you want to taste that I made this afternoon.
Only need 6 more of the other one.
Okay, I got it cooking. I made mine. Yeah, it's pretty easy. It takes about a week to make. You want to know how to make it?
Dude, I want to make some. Actually, I was looking for one of the old prospects.
Yeah.
From San Francisco.
You can definitely get that stuff online, and they'll come, but a lot of it, you still have to strengthen it and get it back into full force. It does take a little time to do that.
I made one from scratch a few years ago.
Oh, so you know how to do it, yeah?
I'm real happy with it.
Oh.
It's very sour.
Mine's pretty good. And also it has a lot to do with the rise time. If you do a quick rise, it's not going to be as sour. If you do a long rise, it's going to be a lot more sour. The amount of salt that you put into sourdough makes the rise time a lot longer, because it basically slows down the fermentation. What?
What makes it brown?
It's a cracked red wheat. It is a whole wheat sourdough bread made from heirloom wheat, which is
Gluten-free diets uses?
yes and no. Sourdough bread possesses the digestive enzymes to be able to consume gluten for your body to be able to process gluten, and that's why sourdough is much easier for people to eat. Also, the thing with bread, it's kind of a twofold thing. Wheat has been so altered. It doesn't even resemble its ancient form, really. In Egypt, during Egypt times, wheat and bread was considered a digestive. It was supposed to aid digestion, which is far from what it's considered now. So if you can get your hands on a good heirloom or ancient wheat. That's generally all I'll use to make sourdough. And that's why I don't have it on here, is because it's kind of a hassle. I'm not gonna lie. It's an art, for one.
It is a bit of work.
Yeah, you really do have to do a lot of experimenting to get it down. And honestly, I've been doing it for not too long, and I'm pretty happy with what I've gotten so far, but people spend lifetimes
How do you get
learning.
it dark like this?
That's actually, that's a heirloom red cracked wheat. So that's the wheat. It's a whole wheat. Yeah.
Keep hearing all the time, lose the wheat. You know,
Yeah.
You need to quit.
I would. Well, and I basically brought that because that is actually an example of a fermented food. Sourdough bread is a fermented food. But wheat is, it is a carbohydrate. It's gonna raise your insulin, and we only eat that in very small portions. And we don't generally go through a loaf, so I'll end up dehydrating it, and then,
Just a reminder, it's 8, so I think.
okay. All
I
right.
usually like to end around now so that they
Okay.
can shop, because they're only open till 9. So
Okay.
give you a time.
Sorry. Okay.
Bread's delicious.
Thank you. Okay, let's do a couple of dressings since lots of people eat salads, I'm sure. And I'm going to show you how to do a kefir dressing, which has great probiotics, which will heal your stomach and help you digest and assimilate things the way you're supposed to. So let me clean out my area here. Sorry.
Told us what kefir is.
Kefir or kefir is basically a fermented. It's a grain, and they use it to ferment milk. It's common in a lot of in Greek foods, actually mostly Greek. Yeah, Turkey, in those areas, Poland. It's not a grain. I'll show you. It's called a kefir grain, but it's actually a culture. It's not really a grain. Yeah. I'll show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like. It looks like milk.
Its base is what?
Its base is milk, and then you, yes.
Kind of like liquid yogurt.
Yeah, it's kind of like a liquidy yogurt.
So is it owned by the yogurt and you were purchased it?
Probably. Here, I think so. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Blender. Get our blender. I normally use a magic bullet because it's smaller. This is giant. All right. Let's see here. I'm gonna go back to my recipes because I don't have them all memorized. Half a cup. Where are my cups? Oh, we'll just use it. Half a cup of kefir. And see, I kind of strained mine a little bit so it's a little thicker. Kind of the same way you would do yogurt cheese. That's how you would strain kefir. It makes it a little thicker. You don't have to do it, but it's a little step that I like to do. We're just gonna use it all. And that's a lacto-fermented relish that I made for hot dogs and stuff like that.
Did you make the pickles?
Yeah. The sweetener is honey. Actually that's another thing I missed on my list is honey. I cook with honey often. If I'm going to use a sweetener, honey possesses antibacterial and it also is loaded with antioxidants. So if I'm going to choose a sweetener, I'm going to choose honey. And it's equal portions. If you have a cup of sugar, it's going to be a cup of honey, sort of thing. So this is olive oil mayonnaise that I made, but you can purchase it. Mayonnaise.
More relish though?
Yes, I do. Here. There you go. Okay. So we got a half cup of kefir, half a cup of olive oil mayonnaise. I like to use olive oil, obviously, because of the omega-3s. Okay. We got my little packets of, there you go. I'm gonna explode this kitchen. This is just dill. And I just use, for my ranch dressing, I just use my traditional herbs that you would use for a ranch dressing, which is dill and garlic and, you know, parsley and that sort of thing. So we got a teaspoon of dill, and this is all written down on your little paper there. 2 teaspoons of parsley. And I wanted to show you like how to do condiments and that sort of thing, because it's common. It's stuff people use all the time. This is a good dip as well. So, and I'll let you try it here in a minute. Let's see here, garlic salt. 1/4 teaspoon garlic salt. And 1/4 teaspoon of onion salt. What's that? Yeah, well, I actually could only get my hands on onion powder, so I'm just going to add a little bit more salt to it. But yeah, you could do both if you wanted to. There you go. Just enough. Okay, and then a little pepper. Okay.
Regular black pepper?
Yeah. To whatever you like. Everybody's different. Okay. And then just give it a whip. Low. Nope. Good call. There we go. Got it. Okay, and that's about it. And this kind of touches on 2 of the things we talked about, having a good oil for in your mayonnaise. It's got eggs, good eggs, and it's got a good probiotic in it, which is the kefir. There you go.
So we'll have to skip the kale chips then.
That's okay, yeah. Here, I'll let you do this, sorry. Taking over. Okay, so that's the basic on that. And, okay, gotta clean up my workspace. It's getting a little crazy in here. The last recipe that I have on the bottom here, the sauerkraut with bacon and apples. I just wanted to show you like some of the options that you can do with fermented foods. This is actually, I like this better with sausage rather than bacon. It's a little heartier and it's more of a meal than it is kind of a side dish. So I don't know that we have time to run through it, but it's a pretty easy one. The only thing that my sauerkraut is a little sour than store-bought for the most part, so I don't actually add in the apple cider vinegar when I do it with my sauerkraut. I've never tasted this before, so I don't know how sour it is. Just give your sauerkraut a taste, and if it's pretty sour, I wouldn't add in the apple cider vinegar. So just a little note on that recipe. So how are we doing? I think we're pretty much out of time for the most part. I'm sorry, has anybody ever made kale chips before? Yeah.
How long do you bake?
You bake them for about 10 to 15 minutes until they're crisp. They're really good. And actually, I wanted to share a couple of variations on them. I like to put chili flakes on mine sometimes if you like spicy. Adds a nice little heat to it. Parmesan cheese is nice on there as well, because Parmesan cheese gets real crispy, so it's not going to make it soggy. Another great option is a little bit of sesame oil or sesame seeds. I put the sesame oil on afterwards, after the cooking, and I don't do a lot of it because sesame oil really isn't that great for you. But the sesame seeds are a nice little touch if you want to go for a little Asian. If you have wasabi powder, putting a little bit on there and giving it a little Asian spin is kind of fun too. So kids love it. My kids eat them all the time, so it's a great option for kids. And yeah, so any questions? Yeah. Yeah, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes. They'll start to turn a little brown. You don't want them like a dark brown, but they'll darken up a little bit. So, and if you touch them, you can tell if they're crispy. And one thing you don't want to do when you cook them is crowd them onto your pan, because it'll steam them. If you get them too crowded, if you get too much on there, it's just going to steam them rather than actually bake them. So that's a nice little. Yeah, but you can. I keep mine on the counter for the day. You know, it doesn't have to be consumed right away.
Do you use the baby kale or do you use regular kale?
I've done both. I've done they call it the dinosaur kale, that really kind of like puffy looking kind. I've done both, and actually that one is easier for making kind of like longer strips. It's easier to cut, so I like that one. But you can do both. You could do the purple kale, really anything. Any kale works. And actually, like a lot of other things crisp up. Swiss chard will do similar things and that sort of thing. So, yeah. Any other questions? I'm sorry we took so long. Thank you. Okay, good. Thank you.